Welcome to another episode of Grief in the Raw. My name is Kelli Holloway, and I am so thrilled to have yet another conversation as we navigate in tandem grief, joy, healing, and all the things and all the ways. Today I am joined by my sister, Dr. Monique Tuset. Hi, Monique.
Hey.
We are sisters in Christ, sisters that grew out of the same soil. Let's say our mothers are from Irwin, North Carolina, so Irwin stand up,
That's
Harnett
right.
County, right? So I'm so excited for this conversation because today we are talking about what about your friends? Will they stand their ground? Will they let you down? Yeah. Okay. Can you tell I've had my coffee?
You hype?
I'm hype. I'm so hype. So before we get into that message, I want to take a step back and formally introduce my friend, Dr. Monique Tuset. First, Monique, have you gotten used to doctor as a part of your introduction? Like, is that so? Not yet?
Not yet. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful that people have been stopping me to ensure that I add the doctor in front of the Monique. So I
Yes.
appreciate the support and the community helping me to acknowledge my accomplishment. So I appreciate
Yes,
it.
all day. Dr. Mo was born and raised in North Carolina and is a follower of Christ. She has been on both the receiving end and providing end of grief support, especially since 2017 when a string of family members started passing back to back. She's found solace in her relationship with Christ, friends, and resources. Monique received her bachelor's and master's at UNC Chapel Hill and her doctorate at Fayetteville State University, all while working diligently in the education sector. She married her best friend, Juan, in 2015, and they are loving parents to their daughter, Eliana, age 6. Y'all, please welcome to the pod, Dr. Mo.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And Kelly, I am so proud of you that you launched this podcast. Oh my goodness. What went from conversations via text, via voice notes, via phone calls, to actually seeing you do the thing. I am so proud of you. Every time I get the notification on YouTube and on Spotify that you have a new episode, I'm just like, she did it.
Oh
She
my
did it.
gosh.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Cause you know those conversations of the almost the hokey pokey with it, like
Absolutely.
right foot in, left foot out, like, are we doing this? And you gave me all of that encouragement that was like, you can do this. You are
Absolutely.
doing this. Let's move forward. So I just appreciate those because without those moments of godly counsel, it might not have happened. Like, you knew we were on the cusp of not even doing it. That's a
Yep.
conversation for a different day. But I just appreciate you being obedient and helping to minister to me because that's what you do. That's what you do. So
Yeah.
I'm so full. This is a conversation, even before we get to the grief scale, that one of the reasons, and one of the reasons why I even said yes to doing this was because I wanted to fill in the gap and help bridge the gap between those that grieve and those that want to support those who grieve. And probably the number one topic of my friends who have not lost a parent or have not had what I'm going to call deep loss, deep pain. Of course, we're not comparing anybody's grief journey, but the number one thing that they have said in hearing that I was getting ready to launch this project was, well, Kelli, you got to talk about how to support a friend in grief, because there have been times when I didn't know how to support you, or I didn't know what to say to someone else, because it's hard for me to empathize when I haven't gone through it before. So that was like the number one questions that I have received, even when I've asked others, like, what are topics that you want to get into? At the top of the list is always, what do you tell the grief adjacent, someone that's not grieving themselves? And so there was nobody else that I wanted to have this conversation with to begin that. Like, we'll do round 2, round 3, whatever we have to do. But I was like, Mo, because we've had those conversations.
Absolutely.
Plenty of time. So I'm so glad that we get to bring that to a public forum now. So before I start the questions, we always start out with the grief scale. So I want to ask you, and I know you listen to the show. Thank you for liking and subscribing and all the things. Where are you on your grief scale? A one would be I'm feeling light. I'm not really weighted down by grief today. All the way up to a 10 is it's just really really strong and I'm affected and I'm grieving pretty hard. So I'd like to know, where are you on the grief scale?
I will say a 3 today.
Yeah.
And that is stemming from last weekend. I actually defended my dissertation. So to your point, have I gotten used to defending my dissertation, being called doctor? Not quite
Hmm.
yet because it's so fresh.
Yeah.
But my grief level during that momentous occasion was very, very high,
Yeah.
8 or 9 on the scale. And that was because I never imagined accomplishing that milestone without my mom being there.
Yeah.
And of course, we know she's part of the great cloud of witnesses. And I know that in spirit, she's there and present. But the fact that I had to actually walk through that moment without her being there, it was just a pain that I just was not expecting in such a heightened excitement and such a important milestone of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'll say it's a 3 today because I'm a bit more removed from that moment. And oftentimes for me, whenever I'm preparing myself for a grief ambush, I guess you would call it,
Mm-hmm.
it's more heightened because I'm thinking about it constantly. And then actually on the day of my defense, I really just felt joy. I didn't feel that sadness that I was preparing myself to feel on the day of. And so now, a couple days removed from that, my grief is still present because I am still thinking about her and celebrating, but it's not as heightened as it was. So that's why we landed at a 3. But one thing that
Mm.
really reassured me during that time, my daughter, so Eliana, she said, "Mommy, are you going to talk about your mommy doing your dissertation defense?" And I said,
Ooh.
"I'm going to say something about her at the end." She said, "Well, Mommy, make sure you say it at the end because I know you're going to start crying if you start talking about her." And then she said, "Well, Mommy, why will you be crying?" And I said, "Because I miss her. She's not there." And she said, "But she's there, Mommy. She's right there listening to you, and she's excited." And that was just so touching. And I was
From the
like,
mouths of babes.
I know. I said, yes, raising an empathetic child who's caring
Right.
and
So
thoughtful.
shout out to you. Shout out to Juan for
Yes,
building that language of empathy. My goodness. She's gonna
yes,
change the world one
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Whew.
So that's where I'm at today. So we'll hang out at 3 today.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. I really quickly, I'm probably at about a 4.
Mhm.
Last night I was probably about an 8, and I
Mhm.
think that that's one of the reasons why we explore this, because we understand that going up on the scale doesn't mean that you're not healing, doesn't mean that you're not doing the work. It's just
Exactly.
the emotions. You just have to let grief be. But last night, my youngest Ava got kind of sick. She had a stomach ache. Went to bed. We're asleep. Maybe around like 3 o'clock in the morning, we hear her coughing almost like she's choking. And so we run upstairs and she's thrown up because she got
Mhm.
sick, something she ate yesterday. And I just had all of these emotions like, oh my God, my baby. She was like calling out for me. She was crying. It took us some time to get up here. And I was saying to after we got her cleaned up, she's back down. I just could not sleep. I couldn't rest. And he's like, okay, anxious brain, because I do have an anxious brain.
Mhm.
Surprise, surprise. He's like, she's fine. She's a kid. Like, this happens. She'll be okay. She didn't have a fever. Saying all the reassuring things. But in my mind, I'm just playing like in my head, like, what if she would have choked? Like, because kids
Mhm.
choke.
Exactly.
And well, what if her life was in danger? And so like I'm like cycling through all these things. I'm like, okay,
Absolutely.
you are bringing this through a grief lens. And
Mhm. Mhm.
Mike was very empathetic in that moment and was like, I get it, because you know how easily and how fragile life is. That's your
Absolutely.
first. And I'm like, yes, that, but also I can't lose another core unit person
Yep.
right now. Like I can't imagine my life without Abe. I can't imagine my life without Zoe, Mike, like all of those things. And I'm like, man, this grief is strong in the sense
Absolutely.
that it helps us to understand and adopt how fragile relationships are and how they can be gone like that, because we had our mothers yesterday.
Yep.
And
Yep.
today we don't.
Exactly.
So it took me some time. I had to wrestle with that thing. But one thing, I love how you said how you came out of it, and what encouraged you in the time between was your daughter. For
Mhm.
me, in that moment this morning, I had to get out. I had to let the sun like get to my
Mhm.
skin, and I had to, find that presence and that mindfulness in the moment. So I think these are great displays of how we can take
Yeah.
what feels like that. What did you call it? A grief avalanche? A grief,
Avalanche. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, an ambush like that
Absolutely.
just like attacks us. We can take that and we can
Yeah.
organize it in a way that says, "Okay, Lord, help me through this. What is this moment meaning to teach me?" And that's where we can remain open.
Yeah.
First question for you, because we have so many ways that we can take this discussion. But my first
Mhm.
one is, can you share your personal journey with grief and how it has shaped your perspective on relationships?
Yeah. So throughout my life, I of course, knew about people passing, but the first close person that passed was in 2010, which was my grandfather, my mom's dad. And that was at the start of my senior year at UNC. And that was completely unexpected. He passed from a heart attack overnight. So that completely caught us by surprise. And during that experience, because that was my first moment of actual being face to face with grief to that level. I had lost some other family members before, but
Sure.
I was at my grandpa's house almost every day. They lived
Yeah.
5 minutes up the road from me. Um, what stood out to me during that time was watching my mom grieve. And my mom, leader in the church, very outspoken, very extroverted. She
I
is just
remember.
everywhere to all people, all things. And to watch her get down and get down bad, I just didn't know what that looked like. I never saw my mom be that depressed before, and she often blamed herself. And I found myself unprepared, of course, but trying to encourage my mom out of that pit and help her find joy again. And one thing that helped my mom actually was going back to school. My mom had been a cosmetologist for all of my adult life, as well as working in the healthcare industry. But she had never went to school to receive a cosmetology teaching license. She always wanted to teach. And so at the time I was working, I was about to start a career in college advising, and I had that already in my background. I did a lot of mentorship at UNC. And so I helped my mama fill out the community college paperwork. She went to Central Carolina Community College and started working on another degree. And that fueled her and helped her find something to do because an idle mind is the devil's playground. And I witnessed how my
Can you
mom would
say that
just,
again? Can
okay,
you say that
an
again, please?
idle mind is the devil's playground. And my
Yes.
mom at the time, she was not working full time. She was doing vocational ministry with my dad providing for the home. And so during the day, she was just sitting, ruminating on what she did wrong, how her dad passed and how she didn't do this and she didn't do that. But her pursuing education really helped her come out of that pit to focus on something else, to focus on herself, and that really brought her joy. So that was in 2010. After that, you know, people maybe in the community passed away, but it wasn't until 2017, as you mentioned in my bio, where closer family members started to pass again in succession. So what started was my great grandmother. She lived a long, blessed life. My great grandma was what, 96 at the time. So it was like, okay, we gonna miss grandma, but grandma, she done lived her life, okay.
Right, right.
So that death was not as devastating because I was just at a point of acceptance with my great grandmother. And then after that, in 2018, my mom passed very close around Mother's Day, and I was pregnant with my daughter. Then my auntie passed, which was my grandma's sister, and we're all very close because we're from Irwin, close community. Everyone's there. So my auntie passed in 2018, and then after that, another auntie, my grandma's another sister, passed, and then other family members on my dad's side of the family started to pass, and I was just like, "What is happening, Lord? Did I sign up for something that I didn't know I had signed up for because I don't want to be on this side of the grief journey at all." And then in 2 years ago, my godson passed. He was a victim of gun violence. He was 17, well, 16 at the time.
Oh my
And
God.
that really just was, I felt like that was cruel. I said,
Yeah.
okay, God,
Yeah.
this is becoming just overwhelming. And then we also had grief dealing with pregnancy loss, trying to expand our family over the years as well. And so it became very, very overwhelming, and I became just so face to face with
Yeah.
grief in a way that I just never thought I would be acquainted with grief in that way.
Mm.
So, of course, during my time of grief, I'm also helping friends navigate, because once you lose a parent in particular, you really become that go to person where people are going to reach out to you because they're lost. They don't have resources. Other people don't know how to connect because it's such a unique loss and such a unique experience. And so I'm trying to support friends while also trying to be seen and heard myself during my grief journey. And it was just a lot. And I think the biggest thing that really was damaged during that time was my relationship with God.
Mm.
Because prior to that, honestly, I know we are not supposed to look at God like a genie,
Right.
but most of my life had been, I'm gonna pray and worship and do the right things,
Mm-hmm.
and God's gonna come through. I'm gonna be
With the answers,
blessed.
and you're gonna be blessed with
Absolutely.
exactly what you want.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that was my experience with God. And so then having to walk through disappointment in my relationship with Christ, I didn't really know how to handle that. I didn't know how to navigate that. And all of the cliche things that I thought were right to say to people who were grieving, once I started receiving those things, I realized that feels very empty. This is not working. This is not helping. And God, you feel very distant.
Mm.
And it was just a very very, very hard and dark season. Although, in all of that, I still had to maintain who I was. I had to maintain being a wife, had to raise this little girl, and had to present as I presented to people. And so I experienced some really dark, lonely nights during that time. Even though Juan is so great, he's so sympathetic and so encouraging and all those things, but he hasn't ever lost anybody. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally to this day, Juan has all of his grandparents. He has
Mm.
his parents. He has his siblings, his aunties, all of them.
Right.
And so that level of pain, he couldn't quite
Couldn't
get it.
penetrate it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whew.
And so that's been my experience to date, with grief. And yeah, it's been a challenging one for sure.
Mo, Dr. Mo, don't do this to me. I
Ooh.
only have one set of tissues over here.
Mm, 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 mm.
My good, first of all, your strength. Your strength.
It's really the Lord because, you know, I remember thinking, I don't know what I would do if I lost a parent
Mm-hmm.
because I had a cousin who lost a dad in 2019. And I was like, how do you do that? What?
Right.
How do you do that? And then, well, actually, it's in 2009, sorry. So it was way sooner than that. And he was heading off to college. And I was like, I wouldn't be able to function if I lost a parent. And then just to see me today, 6 years later, I am amazed at my own self. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is God. It is not
Yeah.
me. Period. Because how am I functioning? I do not know.
Absolutely. I say often, less of me, more of thee.
Mhm.
Like that's what people see when they're like they see a light. I'm like, it's that's the source. I'm
Right.
plugged into the source. I have to be. I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice not to be. Because don't we know how low and lonely it can be and how
Absolutely.
isolated you can feel. So the second thing that I want to say is I'm just so sorry for the
Mhm.
cascade of loss, for the
Absolutely.
compounded grief that you felt at that time. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this project, is
Yeah.
because I want to fill that gap. Because even though we are both Irwin girls to our core, and we both went to UNC, and there's so many similarities in our stories, and we've kept up with each other, at that time I didn't know how to
Mhm.
support you as a
Mhm.
sister in Christ and as a friend,
Yeah.
other than that, the knee jerk reaction, I'm so sorry for your loss, the
Right.
Facebook post,
Yep.
the Instagram it's been a year and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know then, but
Mhm.
when I tell you I know now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that that's part of the reasons why we go through our testimony season or why we go through our trials, because God
Mhm.
wants us to share it. He wants us to share it to help others to be able to navigate their own journeys. And so your strength in your heart and being able to have that forgiving spirit, because I'm sure as you started to experience, there might have been friends that 6 years ago had not gone through deep loss and didn't know how to relate.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
now maybe they're starting to go through it now.
Absolutely.
And Petty Patty, which I know there's not a Petty Patty bone in your body, but Petty Patty could have been like, well, I didn't get all this,
Not
but
Kelly?
the
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
the way that your heart is, I know that you pray through that thing and you
Mhm.
still show up for those people. So
Mhm.
that does
Mhm.
bring me to my next point. And my next question is, what was the biggest adjustment for you after losing your mom specifically?
Mhm.
And what were some of the most helpful ways friends supported you in the very beginning?
Mhm. So the biggest adjustment for me, which is the adjustment that I'm still dealing with now, is how to function and continue to accomplish things without her voice and
Mm.
her cheerleading. My mama would cheerlead everybody. Now, Kelly, if my mom was here today, she would get on here and say, Kelly, you know what?
Yeah.
Lonnie would be so proud of you. You up there in Texas doing your thing, done graduated,
Listen, you
was working
sound
at
just
that
like
good job,
her.
and now you up here, got a beautiful family. Kelly, you doing good. My mama would cheer everybody on. It didn't matter if you picked up litter. She would say,
Yeah.
"Look, I saw you pick that litter up the other day, and you picked it up good."
Mm.
And that's what my mama was. And
Yes.
so, not to have that voice, that was the biggest thing that I had to navigate, because most people who know me as such a reassured person, such a driven person, such a decisive person. And for the first time in my life, after she passed in 2018, I started to question every decision I
Everything.
made. Everything.
Everything.
I was like, can I do this? Do I know how to do this? Should I do this? And
Hmm.
Juan, he's known me since I was 17 years old. I'm now 35. He was like, wait, what do you mean, can you do that? Of course.
You're
Why is that a
forever
question?
changed. You're
What?
forever changed.
And I was like, I just feel like I don't know. Should I do this? And then even when I applied to my doctoral program in 2020, I was like, should I do this? And my should I do this came from I didn't want to accomplish something that my mom would never see.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
her to see, I wanted her to know about all of the things that I did. And so I felt a little guilty seeking out something else extra, and she wouldn't know about it. And so I questioned myself in that. And so a lot of people don't know about the questioning and the indecisiveness that that void has left in me. Because of course when I present, I'm just me, and people often just still view me from however they view me. I just don't know how people view you, but it's definitely a perspective of, oh, Mo got it. She don't need anything. Of course, she's
She's
good.
the strong friend. She's the
Yeah.
strong friend, right? So she's good.
Absolutely. And so that's the perspective. So that was one of the first things that I had to navigate and still am having to navigate. And then the most helpful thing during my mom's loss, I'll just kind of go back.
Hmm.
And since we're talking about supporting friends, when I lost my grandfather in 2010, I had a friend, and this is who I model my grief support to other friends after. She had lost her dad early on, and she came to my apartment my senior year in college. She brought me a card, and I was just laying on the couch. I didn't feel like entertaining and getting all frilled up or anything.
Sure.
And she was just there sitting with me. She was sitting with me. We did not talk about my grandfather. We didn't talk about grief and loss. She put the card on the table. We watched a TV show. I fell asleep. And then my friend left eventually that evening. And that moment was so impactful to me, and I did not know it at the time
Hmm.
because she was present. She did not fill me with a lot of extra words. She did not try to make me feel any kind of way. She was just present. And after I lost my mom, I realized that's what I need. But of course, when you're in the midst of grief, you cannot articulate that. When people say, "What do you need? How can I help? Can I send you anything?" You don't know what to say. You just
Mm-mm.
your brain just is like, "I'm fine," because you just don't know what to say.
It
But
short
now,
circuits. Your brain short
absolutely,
circuits for a little while.
absolutely. And so now I know, just sitting, that's what I needed. And so I did have a friend who I'm not as closely connected with. We grew up in Harnett County as well. She had lost her dad, and she said, "Hey, what are you doing on such and such day? I'm going to take you get your nails done, and we're going to go out to breakfast, and we're going to go shopping for baby stuff because I was pregnant at the time."
Mm-hmm.
And that was so impactful to me. And I'm like, wow, that was so sweet of her to think to do that.
Right.
And I hadn't really talked to this person closely in many years, but for her to have the compassion to just spend the day with me. And, we talked about grief at the beginning of our time together, but then we're just talking about life, whatever,
Yeah.
shooting the breeze. And that was another impactful moment. So that's what I really needed at the time, but I got a lot of mixed bag of
Yeah.
responses
Yeah.
during that time, and definitely
Let's get into the
experienced
I was gonna say let's get into
the
the
not.
I'm gonna say the black jelly beans in the bag. Now
Yeah,
I don't
the
know. Do
ones
you
you ain't
like
really want.
black jelly
No.
beans?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so let's get into the black jelly beans of the bag. The black licorice.
Yeah, so um to protect the identities of
Yes,
individuals, I shall
we
say
shall.
that I think there's a lot of assumptions that you might assume about other followers of Christ during
Mm,
times of grief and sorrow, because as believers of Christ, we are modeled after Christ, who is compassionate, who is loving, who is supportive, who is all those things.
yes.
And I had many fellow brothers and sisters in Christ at the time who, in their attempt to help me, were trying to really force me out of grief. They would try to pray me out of grief. They would try to um, push scripture down my throat about the joy of the Lord and the encouragement that there is in Christ. And I never felt safe and free to just say, I am having a bad day.
Yeah.
I am sad because I miss my mom. But that was
Yes.
very much shunned by a lot of folks who I was very close to at the time. And that was very difficult to reckon with. And that was an example that taught me those platitudes that were once that rolled off my tongue so effortlessly. I realized that they did not work, they were not helpful.
Mm,
And then sometimes when I will push back and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm still, after that prayer, I still feel sad," people didn't know how to navigate that.
mm.
They didn't. And then also because, I had been up my whole life,
Yeah.
people seeing me just be down,
They don't know what to
they don't
do.
have any context of that. So kind of how when I saw my mom be down bad, I didn't have context for that. Other people didn't have context for me to just be down bad, and I felt attacked and judged during that time. And also, the worst part for me was several people told me, you better stop being so down and depressed because your daughter is going to come out being down and depressed.
Girl,
And so giving me pregnancy guilt during the time where I am genuinely sad
my God.
about my mom passing. And so there are many times where I'm like, let me try not to cry. I'm not trying to mess up Eliana. I don't want her to
Oh,
come out with a disposition just of sadness.
I'm so
So
sorry.
all of these just negative perspectives and thoughts were coming at me during that time. And then in terms of family, I definitely come from a family where folks will show up for you. They are supportive. But in the aftermath, my family isn't really that soft. It's
Mm,
they'll be there, they'll be present. I'm not saying anything about who they are as people, but the emotional, the soft side,
mm-hmm,
our family really, we don't really do that on either side of my family. And
mm,
so I don't feel like there was an example a role model
Yeah.
of how to help me during that time. And that made me feel alone. It made me feel like my family don't even care.
Right.
But of course they do. Of course they
Right.
did. And to your point about forgiveness, as I've journeyed along, it's been 6 years now since that moment. I do see people differently. I do acknowledge they really were trying their best.
Mm-hmm.
They really were not malicious to me. But that took years, Kelly. I couldn't see that
That's
initially.
growth. That's
It
growth.
took growth, it took healing
And
because
it
in
takes
the moment,
boundaries too.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because in the moment, anything that happens when you're heightened in grief, you're going to remember that thing, especially if it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's bad, you're going to remember that. And I just could not remember the bad that happened. And that took
Yeah.
years again of me navigating that. And of course, like I said, I had so many other examples where people could have showed up differently for me, but it was much of the same throughout those 6 years.
Yeah.
I think this
Oh.
might be something that you might chat about in a minute, but I think to your point earlier, talking about how friends have come back and have been able to support me differently now, I
Mm-hmm.
really feel like now, because I have been a bit more vocal on social media about my mom post her passing,
Mm-hmm.
people acknowledge me on Mother's Day, not only for me, but say, I'm thinking about your mom today too.
Yeah.
Or if I post something about the anniversary of her passing, people will post a story or something that they remember about my mom or acknowledge something about me that they think my mom will be proud of. People are not ignoring my mom anymore, and they're
Mm.
acknowledging that this is still a part of me. Because I think
Yes.
too there was a narrative that grief don't take that long. We gonna be done with this and we ain't gonna talk about this no more.
Say
But I
that,
think
Dr. Mo.
yeah, but I think because I've been more vocal about my journey that people have started to see me differently and to acknowledge, wow, that pain still exists, even in her thriving now.
Yeah. Mm. So many things. So many gems. I mean, even, I think back to at the wake of, or at the onset of grief, and just how your brain just is not all the way there, and people asking those questions of, well, what can I bring you, what can I do, or what, one that like got me, let me know how I can
Let you
help, let
know.
me let me know if you need me. What you mean? I just love. I need everybody, all
Right,
hands on deck.
right.
So if there's a lesson in it, and it's not a gripe, but it's a, if you want to show up for someone, think of how you can do it a little bit differently. Think about the lowest of low, and how you can help to shoulder the load is not to ask a question. It's just to show up and be. So I need you to figure out, what am I eating? I need you to figure out, am I putting on clothes? Do I need a jet? Like, I can't farm out the mental capacity of trying to think through those things. So you're either coming and you're just sitting, something that doesn't cost anything at all, or it's a, I have a plan. So that friend that took you to get nails done, just go look at
Yeah,
baby stuff, like, she had a plan, and it was to
absolutely.
help to lift that grief, and it didn't make it go away, but it made it lighter, even temporarily. And I think if more people would be mindful in that direction of, I just got to let it do what it's going to do, and not expect the tears to dry up after just one conversation or one prayer. That's never going to happen. And
And
so
and
I
Kelly,
love that.
I'm going to say this too. So
Hmm.
many people say, I want to give them their space. I know everybody's different,
Yeah, yeah.
but I want everybody to stop defaulting to giving people space. Space is not always helpful.
Right.
And with that being majority of people's default, it makes the person who is deep in grief feel lonely. We feel forgotten. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
there's the pomp and circumstance of getting all the services and stuff together,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want space. Get in my way. Be
Yeah.
annoying to me.
Yeah.
Give me the opportunity to say, "Oh, I'm good today. No need to stop by," or
Yes.
"I'm not up for it." Let me say that. Let
Yeah.
me say you've done enough.
Right.
Don't be absent and then invite me to reach out to you. I don't have the capacity. I cannot.
None.
There
None.
was a post that I saw on social media, and this is this can be helpful to out of town friends. This
Mm,
particular post said, I text my friend and said, will you be home at 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning?
yeah.
Very simple question. The friend could say yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Then the friend said yes, and there was an Instacart of groceries. That's helpful.
Whew.
Now I don't have to think about groceries.
Right.
Another friend out of town could say, hey, will you or someone be able to take the kids to this fun adventure park
Mm-hmm.
on Saturday at 11 a.m.? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
I have bought passes for them to
Mm.
go and hang out at Chuck E. Cheese for a couple of hours. Check your email.
Whew.
That's helpful. For
Yes.
close by friends, hey, can I come and run a load of laundry and fold it for you?
Come
Yes or
on,
no?
Jesus.
So, to your point, having a plan and allowing the person who's in grief to say yes or no,
Yeah.
not what do you need? Because they don't know what they need.
You don't know. You don't know. One of the things that I did in the beginning was, and I think we talked about this before, I had to do a stock of like friends,
Hmm.
and if you were not a friend, nothing against any of those friends, like everybody's living their life, because I know that the world didn't stop just because mine
I
did,
know.
right? But that friend that I thought was a good friend that didn't reach out, like maybe they did one, Facebook post, but
Hmm.
they didn't call me, they didn't check on me in the days, I heard nothing from them, which might have been this cloak of let me give her space, and then you just forget because life be
Life,
lifing, and
right?
that's okay. But I removed some people from
Hmm.
my cell phone and from my friends list, because it wasn't like a I'm angry at them, but it was really truly like I had to look at the capacity that I had of the friendships that I could handle. And if you're a real friend of mine and you ain't reach out, because that means we're not real friends, because you don't know how bad this thing
Right.
hurt me. So
Hmm.
then it's okay. You be free, I be free. But I had to like farm that out, and I had to make that bold decision that okay, this person doesn't really deserve all of me if they can't handle the griefy me.
Absolutely.
And I had to
Absolutely.
make that bold choice. And at first that felt really, really selfish and really, really angry.
Hmm.
But when I started, I felt lighter. I felt lighter because
Absolutely.
I'm like, you don't get a front row seat to this if you're not invested in this with me, like I would be for someone else. That would be grieving.
And to that point, Kelly, um, to the person who did step back to allow space
Mm-hmm.
and is hearing this today, there is grace for you to reach back out and say,
Yes.
I am sorry. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to support you during that time. But now that I know more, now that I've experienced X, Y, and Z, I realize I didn't show up for you. And I want
Yeah.
to do that now. Please let me know the date of your mom passing. Let
Mm-hmm.
me know something that you really enjoyed about her. I want to celebrate that. I want to be a part of that. Give me some information so that I can now be a part of your journey in that space. Kelly, I had to do that myself. So, to my point, my cousin who lost his dad when he was going off to college in 2009, I didn't have a context for losing a parent. When I lost my mom, shortly after that, I called that cousin and said, "Cousin, I'm sorry. I I did not show up for you how I feel like I should have shown up for you." That
Mm-hmm.
cousin appreciated. Oh, he was like, "Oh, Mo, we were all kids. It's fine. We're good, but thank you for the apology." And so I had to own up to the fact that even me, now that I know so much, I still messed up. And I apologized pretty recently as well. So I apologized maybe right when my mom passed, but then even the more I know now, I think
Yeah.
I apologized to this cousin again last year. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
cousin again, I just need you to know that that
Circling
was a
back.
big deal. Yeah, that was a big
Yeah.
deal. You lost your dad. That's so hard. And I'm really sorry I was not there for you the way I feel like you needed someone to be there for you. So to the friend, if you were not present, go back. And to the person on the receiving end of that apology, there's no pressure there. You
Mm-hmm.
can choose what you do with said apology. But to the person who was not present, please still apologize. try
Yeah.
to show back up.
You are going to free some people with this word, right? Because there are some people who are stuck in this cycle of, oh, well, now it's too late for me to reach back out. And it really is never, because that's the experience of grief, is that it just keeps on happening over and over
Absolutely.
again,
Over and
right?
over
So,
again.
oh, I love this. And I know that somebody is going to take from this and immediately get the text out or make the phone call and make it more of an expression that they can feel proud about
Absolutely.
in the present, because what we know as grievers is time is fleeting.
Yep.
Time waits for no one.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's so many things. ah we were gonna have to have a round two, I hope you know.
Yeah, we can do that. We can totally do
We
that.
will have to have a round two, but I'm gonna real quick. You mentioned social media, so I'm gonna go to
Okay.
the social media call out while I'm pulling that up. One of the things that I will never say again when someone is in grief is, I can't imagine what that feels like. Because you can, even if it's not, maybe this is a friend that has lost a child.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say to them, man, I couldn't imagine. I just can't imagine what you're going through. Yes, you can. I
Hmm.
can imagine I don't want
Exactly.
to. I don't
Don't
want
want
to.
to.
But I can imagine losing my child and that deep pain. And I think
Hmm.
that that's what we mean when we say sit with that thing for a
Hmm.
minute. Allow it to make you feel just a little bit uncomfortable for a moment, so that
Absolutely.
that person can understand the empathy and that you're really understanding and walking with them. That's what it takes. So I've
Absolutely.
removed that from my vernacular of,
I love it.
I can't imagine. I could. And
Yeah.
that's why it really hurts, is because you can imagine it, and it is as sucky as you think it is.
Yeah.
It really
And
is.
that's a lesson in empathy, everyone. That's what it is to be empathetic to a person. You sit, you imagine, you think, what would that be like if I lost X, Y, and Z? And then you reach out to said person. I was reflecting on how intense that loss must feel for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hurting for you right now. I'm crying with you right now because, wow, that's an incredible loss.
Mm.
Very simple.
Dr. Mo, I know your mother's name, but I'd love for you to tell everyone your mother's name.
Vivian M. Smith, and she was a elder at the time when she passed. So Eldris Vivian M. Smith.
I love it. Yes, she
Yes.
was. So here's the social media call out for this week. And all I'm gonna say to set this up is, this message was brought to you by the letter G.
Mr. Andrew?
Hey,
Hi. Elmo's going around Sesame Street checking in on everybody. So Elmo wants to know how Andrew's doing.
oh, I'm so happy to see you, Elmo. You have no idea.
Elmo's happy to see you too.
I'm doing okay, you know.
Yeah? Well, what's going on?
Oh, I don't know. You sure you want to listen?
Oh, Elmo would love to listen.
Oh, I'm just thinking about my mum today. You know, she passed away not too long ago, and I just miss her a lot.
Oh, Elmo's really sorry to hear that, Mr. Andrew.
Oh no, it's okay. You don't have to say sorry. It's actually kind of okay to miss somebody.
It is?
Oh yeah.
You know, Elmo always feels really sad when he misses somebody.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. But you know, that sadness, it's kind of a gift. It's kind of a lovely thing to feel, in a way, because it means you really loved somebody when you miss them. And when I miss someone, when I miss my mom, I remember all of the cuddles I used to get from her, all of the hugs I used to get from her. Yeah, just like that. And it makes me feel close to her when I miss her in a strange way. So I'm happy to have all the memories of my mum and the joy she brought me and the joy she brought my brother and my dad and everyone she ever met, everyone around her. So when I miss her, I remember it's because she made me so happy. So I can celebrate her and I can miss her at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Elmo really loves that, Andrew.
Elmo really listens really well.
But
Elmo.
Elmo wants to know how people are doing, and Elmo's very happy that you shared that with him. And you know what?
you.
Elmo's going to think about and celebrate your mommy, too.
Oh, Elmo. You know what? Nothing would make me happier and nothing would make her happy. Because you know what? I've got to tell you something. I've got to
What?
tell you a secret.
What?
Are you ready?
Yes.
Elmo is my mummy's favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Elmo needs a hug for that.
Come here.
Elmo loves you, Andrew.
I love you so much, Elmo, and I always have. I always will.
Yeah. And you know what? We're going to celebrate all the important and special people that you miss, too.
That's right. Each and every day, all together.
Shout out to Sesame Street. Elmo did his big one with that. And a puppet can get that. Like,
I mean, really.
I want families to engage with that. That was powerful. Okay, one quick thing that I'll say about it is I love how Andrew said, "Are you sure you want to listen?" Like I'm inviting you into this grief space. And what I have said is, do you have the capacity today? Because you never know what someone is shouldering. So I don't want to just emotionally unload on you. But Andrew's like, are you sure you want to listen? Do you have capacity for this? So that, to me, it was the invitation for the exchange for Elmo to just be like, yeah, Andrew, go where you need to go. I'm here. I'm on this stoop
Absolutely.
with you. What does it spark for you?
And for those who didn't watch the video, who's listening via audio right now, one thing that Elmo did in the video is he slid a little closer to Andrew. And I just love that because he gave physical touch in that moment and really let Andrew know, I am present. I am sitting with you. And Elmo listened so well. And I really love that Andrew reminded the listeners that we can still talk about grief. Sometimes people would say, oh, I didn't want to bring up your mom. I didn't want to make you sad.
Yes.
You're not making me sad. You're making me appreciate the fact that you know my mom is so important to me that you're bringing her up in this moment. And that's something that I appreciated about folks who attended my dissertation defense. So many people acknowledged my mom during that moment. And it was emotional, of course, but I really appreciated that they knew that it was because my mom and her sacrifice that I was able to stand there before them that day.
Yes. Ooh. Listen, as the old church folks would say, I'm not gonna be before you long. And it don't take God all day to do nothing. We will have a round two, but I have to kick to you a couple of rapid fire questions. And then we will have a round two.
We have to.
We have to. Like there's so many things. Okay, are you ready, Dr. Mo?
Absolutely.
Coffee or tea or wine for a cozy chat with a friend?
We'll do coffee. I'm definitely more of a
Okay.
coffee girl these days.
Okay, when you come to Houston to visit, I'm gonna take you to Lit Java. Okay.
Oh, I have to be there. I see your
have to-
post.
Listen.
I need to
We're
be there.
going. It is done. It is done already. We're scheduling
Absolutely.
the things. If you could choose one song to be your anthem on your healing journey, what song would that be?
Oh, wow. I cannot think of a particular song at the moment, but it will have to be a worship track. Maybe something by Maverick City Music, one of their deep worship songs. So something there, and because those songs are just encouraging, reminding you of the goodness of the Lord. I think those moments, in those deep grief moments, it's important to be reminded that God still loves you. He still cares for you, even though you feel lonely.
We talked about Sesame Street. What are some of the other kid shows that you are watching these days with your daughter?
Oh, I love Lila in the Loop. It's on PBS. I said, yeah, y'all better have a absolutely.
In the loop.
Lila be up there problem solving in her black family. I said, go ahead,
Yes,
PBS.
representation. they be getting it, man.
Yes, and I love Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham. I actually have started watching that show without my daughter because I'm like, I need to know what's going to happen next.
Because that's your business. Yes.
That's right.
Oh, God. What is the biggest life lesson your mom has taught you?
Oh, to support and celebrate everybody. My mom did not have a jealous bone in her body, and I don't care what other people are accomplishing around me. It takes nothing from me to celebrate them, and I'm going to celebrate and cheerlead them to infinity and beyond. I don't care if we're in the same sector, competing for the same opportunity. I'm going to cheer for you. If you're doing something well, I'm going to celebrate you, and you're going to know you're doing a good job. And I got that from Vivian Smith.
Yes, and she did it so well, and you do it so well.
Thank you.
Last question, and it's a two-part, and I think because you're a listener, you already know. What has grief taken from you, and what has grief given you?
It has taken from me that that reassurance and that confidence boost that my mom provided. It has given me the opportunity to be reflective, empathetic, and the ability to see people where they are in grief and acknowledge who they are and where they could be once they make it through the depth of the season.
So much wisdom, Dr. Mo. I just imagine that our mothers who knew each other, like, I don't know if
Yes,
we said that, but they were
yes,
friends.
they were friends.
I feel as though just like we're meeting at this table, they are up there just praising God, like, our
Absolutely.
girls, they're doing it.
Absolutely.
She is so, so,
Absolutely.
so proud of you, my sister. And I want to thank you for this conversation. I want to thank you for your transparency and your heart. You are doing it. And congratulations to you, Dr. Mo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Y'all, with the time I have left, Dr. Mo, what projects are you working on? How can this community support you? Like, how can people keep up with you?
So now that I have completed this dissertation and this doctorate, the project that I'm working on is sitting down somewhere and not doing anything.
Yes.
So
So
what
she's
people can do,
outside.
people can do is you can connect with me on social media. All of my handles are at Monique Tuset. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn if you care what I'm doing professionally. But something that would be really helpful is to share books, book recommendations. I need to read for fun. We're not reading the serious
Ooh.
books anymore, okay? I've read enough articles. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. But people can share their good reads, their fun reads. I'm getting more into reading for fun. So that's what folks can do
Yes,
to
please
support
put that
me.
in the comments and share that with Mo.
Please
Please, please.
tell me what to read so I can sit down somewhere on my couch and read these
Yes.
books.
Yes. Oh, yes, Lord. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Y'all, take what you need, leave what you don't. Share this with someone you think needs it the most, with a friend. Peace and love, y'all. Thank you, Dr. Mo. I love you.
Thank you, Kelly. Love you too.
Thank you for joining me, Kelli Holloway, inside of today's episode. For a deeper dive, remember you can watch this episode on YouTube and listen on your favorite audio streaming platform. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. For more information about Grief in the Raw podcast and to connect with me, my special guest, and the Grief in the Raw community forum, visit kellyandco.com. All links are in this episode's description. Tremendous thanks to the producer of Grief in the Raw, Miss Bethany Anderson, and major shout out to Jeffrey Smith, who curated the soundtrack for the pod.